Welcome back to America's Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Bull. The segment's brought to you by BOMI.org. That's BOMI. They are the industry standard for education and training in properties and facility management. Check them out at BOMI.org. And we're talking about apartments today. We're talking about multifamily. We have Derrick Barker with us with Civitas Communities, and we have Scott Spalding with us with Bull Realty, a broker who sells apartments. And, you know, we were in a break previously. You were telling me about co-working and your multifamily properties. Pretty interesting. Tell us what you're doing there.
So actually it's co-living. We're doing some co-working.
I said co-working.
Yes, but we're doing that also a little bit. But so what we found in our property is that a lot of the larger floor plans, so 3 bedrooms, that weren't being taken by families. They were being taken by people who were finding roommates on Craigslist and renting it out by room. And that caused all kinds of problems, but it's a way to get to some affordability. So we decided, hey, we can do a better job by determining credit risk, coordinating, cleaning and all the thing and all things like that. So now we're building co-living specific buildings, which from our perspective, we're able to get higher rent per square foot. And from their perspective, they're getting a low hassle and lower cost of living, lower cost of rent.
That's amazing. So these are people that are kind of roommates, and they're having, so you're renovating these or building them more like kind of student living types of floor plans?
Effectively, yes. So we have one floor plan where it's 5 master suites, a large kitchen, large living room. We do working with Common, a large national company, and they do events and everything to really build a strong community. Because what we find is people are attracted to where they live, not only because they want a place to stay, but they also want a community. People just naturally do. And a lot of young people come into a city, moving, they're not cooking a lot, they're not spending a lot of time at home. And this is a way that they can, live in a hot neighborhood, have a lower cost of living, really be a part of a community.
Yeah, that's interesting. My cousin was telling me last night that they have rented a room in their home in Grant Park, an area in Atlanta, to a young lady who's going to college at Georgia State. She's paying $500 a month. She's renting a bedroom there in their home. So co-living, right? And he said the same thing you're saying is that, look, she was looking at even in apartments in any kind of shape, form, or fashion, she had to pay $900 or maybe $1,000 a month, right?
Right. And what we're seeing is, according to a Pew Research study that came out last year, 32% of Americans are living with a roommate right now today. So we don't have 32% of the multifamily built environment set up for that. So we're just trying to meet the market demand that's already there and be able to live someplace where if studios are going for $1,500, we can come in and say, hey, all in, utilities included, housekeeping twice a month, you can pay $1,250 or $1,300. You just have to share a kitchen. And people are really going for that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Talking about the number of people with roommates. I have a roommate too, my wife, right?
But the study didn't include relatives. So.
Okay. So that should be interesting too when you talk about lending on a property like that. You talk about buying or investing in a property like that, because you might look at the rents and go, you're getting how much for this one apartment? Right. Because you talk $500 a month, what you said, 5 tenants, $2,500 a month, where as a regular apartment, it may have rented for what?
$1,200, $1,300.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So co-living. So tell us what you guys are doing related to Airbnb.
Yeah, so our company, we have 3 prongs. There's a recent tax legislation that created opportunity zones, and we're already operating in those neighborhoods through our apartment rehab business, where we're going in and putting in a lot of CapEx. So we figured, and we're already also doing Airbnb, which is another way where people can travel more affordably with larger groups. So we have a 3-pronged strategy where we do apartments, we do co-living, and we do Airbnb, all in opportunity zone areas to get the best tax-adjusted returns for our investors. And we've had tremendous growth in our Airbnb business. We're seeing much stronger cash-on-cash returns than we were even expecting, or that we can get from long-term rentals.
I bet you are. And those all 3 in the same community?
We're doing some in the same community, so we have apartments where we'll have some small percentage, 10% of the units that are Airbnb, which allows us to drive higher cash-on-cash returns without doing a lot of capex. We have some properties that are standalone, and we just pay the hotel tax and still.
Yeah, and it's interesting you think about Airbnb for an apartment community because you probably already have a resident manager there, right? You have someone that can check them in and out. Are you doing the Airbnb also with the co-living?
Not currently,
No,
not
okay.
currently, but we absolutely can. The same floor plans that are perfect for co-living are perfect for Airbnb. If you have a group of 10 friends, 5 couples, you want to get 5 hotel rooms, well, that'll cost you $200 a couple. You can get one house is 5 bedrooms, and it'll cost you $250 altogether. So,
well, if you told me 5 years ago that I'd get in somebody's 7-year-old Toyota that I'd never met and let them drive me around the city of Atlanta, I'd have said there's no way. But I think as more people get used to all of this kind of shared use of everything, that's pretty amazing that you're doing that. And I would think that to keep costs down. Even with Airbnb, it'd be interesting that you could rent a room, right? And so when you're doing the I can want to say co-working, the co-living, and somebody's looking at renting one of those rooms, do they have an opportunity to see who the other roommates are, or meet them, or know anything about them?
They do, and honestly, if they get in there and they have an issue, then we can move them to another room on the property. But you have a good amount of privacy. They're effectively master suites, so you have a good amount of privacy there, and you share the common areas. And if you have an issue, we jump on top of that and make sure that we handle those things.
And it's worked in student housing, so why wouldn't it work anywhere else? Right. Is there anything to think about related to the financing, the buyers, the sellers, anything on the brokerage side of those types of properties that you may want to think about, Scott?
Well, I guess they want to look from a lender side. You want to look at the leases and how they work. I know some lenders are going to be somewhat conservative in that unless you're a very strong borrower because, the uncertainty of the cash flows makes lenders feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Right. What about technology? You guys, I think of a lot of technology being used in some of the very high-end Class A properties. What are you doing on the types of more affordable housing related to technology?
So the 2 biggest ways that we're using technology, one is really in construction. Honestly, if you're able to use technology to more efficiently, see change orders and communicate what exactly you want done and have a stronger, more efficient supply chain, you can really drive the cost of construction down, which allows you to get some more affordability. And when we think of technology, we do use it on the property management side through our third-party property management company. But something that's really on the horizon that we're looking at is driverless cars and how that's going to change cities and change the way people are living. And that really goes back to kind of why we think that the whole co-living idea and building more density in cities makes sense because when you have a city where you can you have driverless Ubers that are all whipping around, you need a car less, and we're trying to create the type of density that right now that can work well in that future environment.
And how do you do that? Is it less parking? Is it more areas for pickup and drop? How do you prepare for the unknown future? Or I guess you're looking to the future.
So we do have properties that we're building that will have less parking for instance, in the co-living, we'll have, what we're seeing is around 20 to 30% of those residents are driving, and that we're thinking that's what we're going to have parking for. We are having smaller spaces for storage, things like that, and more spaces for living and experiences, because that's something that specifically the millennial generation they're more focused towards. They focus more on experiences and providing that.
So smaller dwelling units, but more larger common areas.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess if you're going to live with 4 people you don't know, that you kind of like being around people, right? Well, anything you guys would leave our audience with related to the apartment market and what they might want to think about moving forward?
I guess from my standpoint, just some tips I would leave for, owners is that, you want to look at the property and see how does it show? Is there debris in the gutters, in the roof? Is there trash on the ground? Has it been properly landscaped? You also want to look at the deliverables. How does your income and expense statement, your rent rolls, the operating history of the property, is it easy for a third party to understand, your financials? And then when you're marketing a property, are you just reacting to a phone call that you received from a buyer trying to get a better price? Or are you taking the property to market where you put buyers in a competitive bid environment? Also you want to look at, how are you choosing your broker? Do you know exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it? I mean, we got a great list from a client that shared with us some interviewing questions that they asked brokers, and I can share the list with you so you can share it with your audience, but just a couple tidbits would be, number one, they want to know, are you trickle marketing this listing to your email list? Or are you taking it to a big database? Are you using marketing systems or are you not? Are you cooperating with brokers from around the country or even within your own office? Or are you not? And most apartment brokers do not cooperate at all. And then also you want to look at, are you compensating these outside agents as well? Sometimes there's compensation built in there, sometimes there isn't, but a seller needs to understand, what their broker's doing. Because your most motivated buyers, your 1031 exchange buyers, buyers that are switching asset classes or looking to get in a particular market, they're going to be willing to pay more, and more than not, they're going to be shopping with a broker. So if you're not cooperating and compensating outside brokers, you really miss out on some really great buyers.
Yeah, and I think that would be rare. I mean, most apartment brokers are not cooperating with brokers at other companies, and from what I've seen, they're mostly not cooperating with brokers in their own companies. So you think you're getting national marketing from your broker, whatever it is they're selling on an investment property sale, and no, you're not. You're getting email marketing of that broker's email list. But what about on the operations side or leasing? Any tips to leave our audience with?
I can just tell you what I think that our focus has been, which is, we're trying to focus on the thick part of the population bell curve, which is, the median income here in the U.S. is somewhere in the 55,000 range, but that's not where a ton of the supply is. So if there's a decline, we feel like, in this current market environment where pricing is at at the higher end, we like to be someplace where, there's a ton of where the most demand is, the biggest part of the population, where there's the least attention from a supply perspective, and that I'd say if you're looking at properties, and that's what we look for, that's what we focus on. Where do your tenants want to live? What would be important for them? Be around amenities and market to the thick part of the bell curve.
Yeah, well, I think that's great, and I think economists and analysts around the country would say, well, yeah, that is the spot. That's the spot where there's a need. That's the spot where there's growth. That's the part where there's going to be appreciation and rent growth and continued demand. So, but the hard part is the expertise that you have, right? That is a more difficult product type. You just can't write a check. You got to have partners like you guys that can do and help them with it. So, hey, guys, thanks for joining us. Great information.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for joining us around the country. Please let us know your thoughts. Thanks for sharing the show with your associates and your friends online. Until next week, be sure that you always lead, you learn, and you laugh, and you join us for America's Commercial Real Estate Show.